It remains unclear exactly how this is going to work. The administration is giving countries some time. But if we cut to the chase here, this seems to have everything to do with China. Is the United States willing to interrupt oil trade between Iran and China if it means some pain here at home?
Well, it's not just China. The other big fish is Russia, and after that is India, it's United Arab Emirates, and it's Turkey. I mean, it's a whole host of countries that the United States needs to get very tough with. And essentially, the entire economic D-Day is not really anything new that the United States is going to do to Iran. It's things that the United States is threatening to do to its allies around the world. And that's, I think, is a very tall order for the U.S. to actually implement. And we'll see whether these countries voluntarily come along. China has already said that it will not play by the rules that the United States wants to lay down. And to me, this looks like a grandiose statement, a sort of a theatrical declaration of a major step by the United States, which may be no more effective than the president's many threats to be destroying Iran, sending it back to the Stone Age.
Well, to that point, Professor, our audience should know that you grew up in Tehran and you immigrated to the U.S. after the revolution in 1979. Iran has basically been under sanction that entire time. Since then, it's been about half a century. So why realistically would the regime bow to a tougher sanctions regime like this, assuming the U.S. does everything it says it will, when it has not cowed to them in the past?
Well, Iran has been under 47 years of sanctions. I've written a book about that. And the reality is that, first of all, it has developed ways to survive under sanctions. So it's not like a country that has not previously been outside of the global economy that is all of a sudden subjected to sanctions. They build their own missiles, their own drones, their own industrial products, and they can survive under a great deal of hardship. Secondly, sanctions work really when you actually offer something on the table. That's the way it worked with President Obama. He, for the first time, introduced secondary sanctions on Iran, squeezed them hard, and then he said, here's a table we can negotiate over the nuclear program, and this is going to be a realistic diplomatic negotiation. The reality is that President Trump is offering nothing. Is basically saying, I'm going to squeeze you until you surrender, and the Iranians will not surrender. In fact, today, the Iranian Speaker of the Parliament told the visiting Pakistani military chief who went there to see if he can resolve the dilemma, that there is a pathway out of this, which means that the United States needs to go back to the MOU that it signed in June and implement the MOU. So for the Iranians, there is already a diplomatic off-ramp. And no, I think the Iranians will not give in. And they've already said that they will not tolerate any more economic pressure, that they will attack the infrastructure in the Gulf. They will put pressure on the global economy. They may shut down a lot more of the trade in oil and gas that goes over the Red Sea. Their proxies in Yemen, in Iraq will begin to put more pressure on Saudi oil facilities. And Iran may get much more aggressive in the Gulf. The U.S. has been escorting more and more tankers in the past 2 weeks, but those tankers may now come under a lot more fire than they had in the past 2 weeks. So yes, the United States can escalate, as Secretary Besant says, but the other side also gets a vote. And the Iranians are aiming at the U.S., but the real target for them is the global economy. Whatever they do will be designed to get the attention of the energy markets, to get the attention of other dimensions of the global economy, and to make it much more difficult for the U.S. to have its cake and eat it too.
Treasury Besant, Secretary Besant said a major financial institution will be sanctioned this week. Vali, do you have any thoughts on who that might be?
No, I mean, we know that already all the major Western financial institutions have got out of any kind of a business with Iran. Iran is not able to use the SWIFT financial transaction mechanism, which means that even if banks wanted to deal with Iran, they don't have a regular way to deal with Iran. So that major financial institution is perhaps a Chinese institution or a Hong Kong institution connected to China. And my sense is that it potentially can invite a Chinese retaliation if the U.S. did something like that. So the U.S. is essentially expanding its war in the Gulf to a much greater war between itself and other global actors around the world, which seems to be shooting itself in the foot. It is not, it is basically expanding the geography of this war out of the Gulf into the financial markets, and it's going to get entangled with some major global actors with whom it has other business and other sets of issues that it has to deal with.
Well, the U.S., of course, says all of it, whatever comes next, is with the end goal of making sure Iran never has a nuclear weapon. Does what you're describing, Professor, bring the U.S. closer to achieving it?
That was the goal when the U.S. bombed Iran's nuclear sites in June of 2025, and President Trump declared that Iran's nuclear program was obliterated. The Iranians were negotiating exactly what he wants, namely that there would not be any Iranian nuclear weapons program or major threat to global security with Iranian nuclear program. And he decided that he would settle the whole thing militarily. He would just go to war with Iran. They will either completely cave in or that they would basically fall from power. None of that is happening. Right. Iran has come out of this war stronger. It's been now months that the U.S. has got entangled in an endless war. President Trump has no way to finish this war diplomatically or militarily. He's stuck. And we're not even talking about Iran's nuclear program. He throws these words out there as a sort of a throwaway. In reality, the entire discussion is about the Strait of Hormuz, which was not even an issue before he went to war. We have to first resolve this issue of the Strait of Hormuz. We should have to first resolve the free flow of oil and gas out of the Persian Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz. We have to first get to a ceasefire before we can even think about Iran's nuclear program. So in a way, he's actually pushed that issue much farther out, and he's not able to resolve the steps that the United States has to get through before it can arrive back at a conversation about Iran's nuclear program.